welcome to the Rick Fuller podcast, presented by Rick Fuller, leader of a California Senate and Assembly Distinguished Small Business Award. And also, Rick, you're being featured on the cover of Top Agent Magazine this week, and you have a great 5-page article in it. So well done. Congratulations.
Thank you, Christina. It's an exciting time around our office as we're preparing for the holidays, and we're seeing the award that we received this year for the best small business of the community. I mean, it was just really an honor and humbling. So, and thanks for all your hard work too.
Well, you've led the team to great things, and each person on our team is an all-star. So all of these accolades that you and the team have earned this year are well-deserved, especially during COVID. It's been a rough year, and everyone has worked so hard to serve our clients. And so each award is well-deserved. So well done, guys. So I'm Christina Morales, a writer and marketing specialist. Rick is my friend and my mentor. And today we're going to talk about the 3 phases of investing in real estate. So Rick, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. The market is a little bit crazy right now. We have real estate. We have agents on the line, investors on the line. This is a specific group we're talking to today, and they are smart. They know what's going on. And so inventory's low. Is it a good time to invest in real estate?
Well, Christina, I'm glad you started off with this question because it's the question in the mind of almost every agent and real estate investor. The real estate market, as you said, has been on nearly a 10 and in some communities even longer bull run in the real estate market. Year after year, values continue to climb, and a lot of people are like, wow, this is incredible. I own real estate, I benefit. Do I continue to acquire real estate in this environment? In an environment where prices are rising and have been for a long time, an environment where there are very low interest rates and there's not a lot of inventory. Those are the 3 things. And what most people think of is they only think of one thing, which is the price of the property. But I'll tell you, there's more to the picture than just where the price is going. And let me give you some examples. This is a great time for a flip investor to purchase. And one of the reasons why we know that is because there's just so little inventory and such strong demand. Most flippers, those that are buying a property, they fix it up, they repair it, they discover something unique. I'll talk about 4 opportunities later. When they discover these things and then they put it on the market, they want certainty there's going to be a demand for their property. Right. And that's the market we're in, where there is a strong real estate demand for properties. And so when you buy a property, you fix it, and now you're ready to flip it, knowing that there's a demand for that inventory, knowing there's a demand on that market puts you in an exceptional position. Let's look at a market. We've been through it where it's different, where home values are dropping. They haven't been rising for over a decade. In that market, you're anticipating that you're going to buy a home, fix it, and flip it, but yet the price continues to drop. So it takes now 30, 60, 90, 120 days to find a buyer. You now have to offer a home on the market that's a little bit bigger at a little lesser price, has a little more benefits or a little more features, a little more amenities at a little lesser price. And that's the market when values are declining. So for a flipper, this is the market that gives you the confidence that once I buy it, once I do the right fixing of the property, there's going to be a demand. We look at investors that are holders, and these are what I call portfolio investors, right? We talk about portfolio investors on past these podcasts. And these are investors that are benefiting from this incredible market. For one, because there are very low interest rates. And if you're buying properties the way we teach you to buy them, we have entire podcasts on that topic. What you're doing is you're not going after other people's money. What you're not doing is you're not going out and leveraging every property. You're actually working a strategy to pay off the home and own it free and clear, because 100% of properties that foreclose have a mortgage. And so what we want to do is we want to pay off that property and either pay it off immediately and buy it all cash, or we want to pay it off over time. Low interest rates ensures that more of your money for your monthly payment, more of the money is going to the principal balance, less is going to interest. A huge benefit. The other thing that we notice is that when you have low interest rates, you have more loan options available. For example, we're a big advocate around our office on the 15-year mortgage. When you run the numbers on a 15-year mortgage, you find that you save often tens of thousands, even over $100,000 in interest by deciding to do a 15-year over a 30-year mortgage. So this low interest rate environment gives you the ability to buy a property, secure a low interest rate. You'll probably never, ever refinance again. More of your payment every single month is going to principal, less is going to interest. You now have multiple loan options. Here's another opportunity that's available in today's market that doesn't exist. When home values are rising, the higher the home price, the higher that your property taxes are going to be. And so if this market continues, and most economists think that we're going to see this kind of market with low interest rates, low inventory, and rising home values exist into 2021, if this market continues, what you're likely to see is your property taxes in the state of California will be higher in the future than what they are today. And we know that because of Prop 13. You buy a property, investment property, commercial property, residential property. You buy a property, when you purchase it, it becomes the assessed value. It's an assessable event. And Prop 13 says it's going to be assessed at 1% in ad valorem, according to value tax. And so the higher that price goes, the more you're going to pay in property taxes. So if you want to preserve some of that money, you want to purchase before property prices begin to peak. The third thing that you and I have been talking about quite a bit is those investors that are vacation rental owners. And if that's a conversation that's relatively new for us. Years in the past, we didn't talk about vacation homes, Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO, short-term rentals. It just wasn't organized like it is today. Now it's a big part of the market. And vacation homes are seeing a massive amount of demand because families want to vacation together. They don't want to be in the large resort with thousands of people. They don't want to be on an airplane. They don't want to be on a cruise ship in today's market. They want to go and travel to a beautiful destination. They still want to take a vacation. They just want the safety that renting an entire home, the exclusivity of that home, and their family and just a couple of friends are able to go to that property. And so we know that as those that are looking at vacations, and that's how we want to travel. Well, as the investor looks at it, says that creates a demand for this vacation home. I want to own more vacation homes. I want to own vacation homes in the right place because I know that there's an increased demand because of the unique market we're in. So I talked about the flippers, the ones that are holding, and the ones that are using it as like at a vacation rental property. This is a great market for all three of them. There are opportunities and benefits in this market for each and every one of those classification of investors.
Oh, perfect. Because I was wondering, if there's no inventory, how do we invest? But thank you for addressing that. So let's move on then, since now is a great time to invest. The topic today is the 3 phases for investment property. So can you just do a little overview of it, and then we'll take it apart one by one?
Totally. I'm convinced that there are only 3 phases. And if you get all 3 of these phases right, it becomes a great investment. If you get one of the phases wrong, it can be devastating. So knowing the 3 phases are really critical to begin to evaluate whether it's a good investment. The first one, you got to buy it right. A lot of people go wrong on this one. They over-purchase the property. I'll never forget, Christine, I was at an auction years ago, and they were selling foreclosed properties at an auction. And people were getting so excited at the auction. Somebody was bidding, then another person was bidding, the paddles were going up. There's this energy in the room. It was exciting. And they overbought the property. So they didn't buy it right. They got the emotions in the way, and they didn't buy it right. The second thing is you got to hold it right. Now, if you're planning to flip the property while you hold it, you've got to hold it properly. That means you got to take into consideration things that we often don't think about, like utilities, property taxes, maybe a mortgage, maybe a landscaper, maybe a house cleaner. What about the improvements that you're going to make on the property? What about any taxes to the local city or the county that need to be paid as a result of that? And so we got to think about how we hold the property. What about the contractors that are visiting the home to do the painting and the flooring and the cleaning and the landscaping? and making sure that you've taken that into consideration. So that's phase 2. You got to buy it right, then you got to hold it right. And phase 3, which is really important, you got to sell it right. It would be a shame to go through and buy it right, hold it right, and not sell it or lease it right. And by not selling it or leasing it right, which is phase 3, what ends up happening is you take all of that hard work that you've done to buy the property, to find the property, to fix up the property, to make those repairs, only to put it on the market and miss out on the huge pools of buyers that are available. And this is the market where you want to really benefit from the sale of the property or even leasing, because there is a lot of demand for both properties for sale and properties for lease. So being able to tap into that full buyer pool is critical for you to have the best investment. So buy it right, hold it right, and you either sell it or lease it, depending on what your strategy is, and do that right. You do those 3 things and you will find it'll be a great investment.
Okay, so let's talk about buy it right. I tend to think of rundown houses, foreclosures, all the worst house on the block. Those are the best for investment properties, but we're not seeing much of that right now. And we're seeing bidding wars and tens of thousands of dollars over asking. So how do we buy it right now?
So one of the ways that you can buy it right in today's market is you have to look for an opportunity. You know what I discovered, Christina, is behind the scenes, most investments that I've bought, most investments that have really been successful that I've been able to help others, and Zillow says we've helped, I think, 1,200 people buy real estate. And in that experience, most of them had an opportunity, especially on the investment side. And the opportunity, and I found that there are really 3 opportunities that you want to look for. There's the first one. The first one is there's an opportunity to change it. Now, this I think is the most common. You referenced it with foreclosures. So the opportunity is, okay, the home needs a lot of work. It needs landscaping. It needs flooring. It needs paint, maybe a new kitchen. And there's an opportunity to change it. But that's not the only thing you can change. The other thing that you can change is that you can change the type of property that it is. Maybe it was intended for a single family home for a primary residence, but you found that this is a community that has a massive demand. And because of that, we can make it into a vacation rental property. Or maybe it was a 3-bedroom house, but the market really benefits if we change it and we can make it into a 4-bedroom home. Another option might be we change it to be conducive. In our area, we have a fulfillment center going in called Amazon. It's going to bring in a lot of jobs. Those investors that can serve that market, provide inventory to buyers and tenants, will benefit. And they will benefit because there's a demand. Do they know that? And can they change it in such a way, find the opportunity and change it to where the market is to be able to serve that environment? And so usually there's a silver lining, there's an opportunity that exists with most investment properties. I'll tell you a brief story on this one. I bought a property at one of the auctions. This particular property was listed by the auctioneer as a 3-bedroom home. I knew that it actually could have 4 bedrooms very, very easily. And the spread or the margin between a 3-bedroom and a 4-bedroom was significant. There were a lot more people in the market today that wanted a 4-bedroom in this community than wanted a 3-bedroom. So I bought the home. I took the 3rd bedroom, the 4th bedroom, which was an office. I turned it in legally to a 4-bedroom property. And that was the opportunity to change it. And I changed it in such a way that it opened up for a new buyer pool. The owner that owned it before, this was a particular property, was a foreclosure, but the owner before probably wasn't thinking about that. So there was an opportunity, there was a silver lining that existed. Let me tell you the next opportunity. There's an opportunity to improve it. And think about usage when we talk about improving it. So for example, if you're a commercial application, you're a commercial investor today, when we think about it, there's an opportunity to improve the usage of that property. Maybe retail is not a good place for you to be today. Or under massive COVID restrictions, maybe office space isn't the right place. But maybe a distribution center is. So can we improve the zoning? Can we find a new usage for this property? Maybe it was situated in such a way where it was a single family home and we can make it commercial. Or if it was commercial, we'll make it single family. And so we've improved the zoning from a perspective of what's more conducive to the environment. Maybe that community is really doing well with tenants. Or maybe this property needs to be purchased and sold to somebody who's going to live there as their primary residence. And so we change how we're going to use the usage of the property. And by changing it and improving the usage of the property to be more conducive to the market, lots of opportunities come our way and we create a good investment property. And then you have the third one, and that's expose it. And what do I mean by expose it? Well, so often an investor is buying a property. They do a beautiful job improving the property or holding the property. And now what they do is they drop a for sale sign. It's a for sale by owner for sale sign. And only people that drive by that street on that particular day ever see the for sale sign. They don't expose it to the market. They now maybe exposed it to the few people that drive by on that street rather than the thousands and thousands of buyers that are in the market or tenants that are in the market. So you want to expose it to the entire market. You say, well, Rick, I really want, this particular type of tenant or this particular type of buyer to buy the property. I think that's going to be the best buyer based on its usage, based on how I've improved it. Fine, open it up to the entire market. Let everyone have an opportunity to bid on it. Let everyone have an opportunity to present what they're willing to do. And then take the one that is most financially equipped for that property, prepared for that property. And so you want to expose it to the full market. This is especially common on rental properties today. And what it looks like, take an Airbnb or a VRBO. And I see this all the time where the homeowner took the picture with their cell phone.
Right.
They took video and you can hear them or see them or, it's all wobbly and it's all shaky and it's not exposed well to the market. And that photo or that video doesn't build, in some sense, a building block for you to see the home. I saw the video, I saw the photos, I saw the description, I saw the floor plan, I saw the Matterport tour, I saw the video tour, the virtual tour. It doesn't build a building block, it's a stumbling block. Oh my goodness, I don't even want to see that home. Look how ugly it is. They took pictures and it's dark. They took pictures and the agent's photo is in the mirror in the bathroom. And so we want to make sure that our marketing material, once you've done all that work, really highlights what you've invested into the property and puts the property in its very best light. And so the third opportunity is to better expose the property on the market. I see swings of tens of thousands of dollars on this, exposing it right. Those that don't expose the property right to the market, those that don't do that, lose out on tens of thousands of dollars. And in some sense, I think maybe they saved a couple $100 on professional photography. Maybe they saved a little bit of real estate commission. Maybe, but they lost tens of thousands of dollars in the potential sales price of the property because it wasn't exposed to the full market. I think those people are jumping over the dollars looking for the pennies. And as an investor, that's just not how we work. That's just not how you roll. When you're an investor, you think through these things and you say, what's going to create the greatest return on my investment? Both my time and my dollars. Which one? Usually having it fully exposed to the market produces the best results.
That's so smart. And another thing that you do brilliantly is on your website, you have the Rick Fuller guarantee. And so this is great because it gives people an option, especially during COVID-19. They don't want strangers walking through their house. They don't want a for sale sign. They don't want the hassle of bidding wars and you have this. So can you share a little bit about how this helps investors and it helps the seller?
Well, it's free to both the investor and the homeowner. And so those homeowners that, just like you mentioned, I don't want people walking through my home. I need to sell quickly. I don't want to make those repairs. You're saying I should do flooring and painting and landscape. I don't want to do those things, or I don't have the resources to do them. Or I'm in a place where I got to relocate out of state, out of the area for a job relocation. Maybe there's a hardship, divorce, a family loss. The guaranteed offer is such a cool program because you literally go online and you plug in your address and you hit submit. And then here's what happens. One of our team members reaches out to our pool of investors. And the pool of investors gets this property that the buyer is, the seller is thinking about this guaranteed offer, and they give me an offer on the property in which we present to the investor.
So smart.
So it's free for the investor, it's free for the homeowner. They don't have to take the offer.
Mhm.
And in some cases, they don't take the offer because they say, well, if I did some paint and carpet, landscaping, I would get a higher price. Yeah, probably. So if that's the case, then let's go ahead and do those things. And some people say, no, I kind of like this investor's offer. And with COVID, like you've mentioned, Christina, I don't want people walking through my home. With COVID, I don't want to be at risk that the buyer's financing falls through. I kind of like that cash investor that you sent. And so then they accept the offer, and then they work with the investor to to close escrow on the home and work out the timeline and ratify the offer. And so the guaranteed offer is a win for the seller, because what do they have to lose? They have nothing to lose. If they don't like it, then don't accept the offer. It's simply that, an offer or a proposal. And the guaranteed investor, that's what we call them, the guaranteed investor, they have nothing to lose because they submitted over the offer. It didn't cost them anything to do that. The offer is prepared by one of our team members. There's no obligation to continue to go out and buy another property. If you like that one, buy it. And then our team member drafts the offer for you. And at the end of the day, if it works, it's a win-win for everybody. And if it doesn't work, then we go out and we prepare the home for sale and go on the market. The guaranteed offer is just a real gem for us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. So let's go on to number 2, which is holding it right. How do you know how much to spend in this area and your return on investment? How do you calculate that?
Well, this is a really important question. I think a lot of people get it wrong. And what they'll do is they'll buy a property, and it's in a community of other smaller homes, and they overdevelop it.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a community of, say, 1,500 square foot homes, and they build out a 2,500 square foot home. It's the nicest home on the street. It's the home on the hill. It's the mansion in the neighborhood. Everyone knows it. Here's the problem. All of those other properties are dragging down that home value. And so in some sense, the neighboring properties that are 1,500 square feet, in contrast to your 2,500 square feet, with all the myriad of upgrades, those are dragging it down because the way that an appraiser and often a buyer discovers the value of the property, how they make that determination, is they find out what buyers were willing to pay for a home like it in the community. So when you have a community of small homes and one that's overly developed, it is a waste of money. And most of the time, you don't get a return even of your investment, much less a return on the investment. So that's really important. I see the reverse happen also. And that's that somebody buys a property, and these are more of our portfolio investors. They're really savvy investors. They know the community. And in that scenario, they buy a 1,500 square foot home amongst 2,500 square feet. And then what ends up happening is just the opposite. Those other neighboring homes that are selling, they're pulling up that home value. Now, I'm using square footage as an example because I think we can all relate. So these are an opportunity for an investor to make minor adjustments in their investment strategy and become the investor that in some sense buys the small home in the street and brings it up to par, rather than buying the huge property in the community and now the others are pulling down the value.
So does your investment dollars, do you spend more if you're going to sell it, or if you rent it? Does that impact the value?
Well, it can. And oftentimes what we look at when we're holding an investment property, when it comes to the rental, it's not that you would spend less, but you definitely want it to be more durable.
Okay.
More durable.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that if you're having an investment property that you're renting out, you probably don't want the delicate bamboo flooring, right? That's easily scratched, that's easily gouged. You probably don't want the glass cabinet doors that easily get shattered. You probably don't want a pool, which requires the pool maintenance and all the things that come with that, because those things are not durable. I think I have a part-time job in my life replacing pool filters and untangling pool cords. And so you don't want to put that responsibility on a tenant. And so I don't know that you spend less, but you certainly spend it in a different area. Instead of the bamboo flooring, which is historically, it's a very strong material, but it typically, I see a lot more scratches. It's a
Yeah.
lighter color and so forth. Instead of that, you may want to choose a laminate vinyl or an LVP, a luxury vinyl plank, or a luxury vinyl tile. Instead of going with a really expensive carpet, you may want to go more of a medium grade carpet. I particularly like wood paneling on properties that are rental properties, because I found it helps preserve the sheetrock and even some of the walls. So as you have different tenants come in, think about a short-term vacation rental. You might have somebody coming in every weekend. So how do you build it in such a way where the walls don't get banged up and scratched and dented? And so sometimes wood paneling creates that durability. Conversely, with an investment property, people can overinvest and overdevelop a property for the community. We talked about that. And they can overinvest for a community, and they've got the marble kitchen counters. They've got the absolutely gorgeous cherry wood cabinets, but they spent so much on them that it minimized their margin, and there wasn't a buyer that was willing to pay for that in that community. So a lot of these assessments happen with a good pulse on the community, a good pulse on the neighborhood, a good pulse on the market, and where I ought to be investing my money to make sure that it's a good investment. Because as an investor, your goal is not to get just the return of it. You want a return on it. And so when you want a multiple return on your investment, you simply don't want to get your money back. That would be a waste. We didn't do it in the first place. You want to be able to invest and have an appetite. There's an appetite for a tenant, for a vacation rental guest, or even for a buyer that's going to buy the property and hold it. Have you discovered what that appetite is, or are you making guesses, making assumptions? One of my mentors used to tell me, Rick, if you do the numbers will tell you what to do. And oftentimes it comes down to think about it in those three phases we talked about: buy it right, hold it right, sell it or rent it right. And that by understanding them, you can run the numbers, and the numbers will tell you which one of these options exists.
And we're both big fans of Dave Ramsey. You're a certified Dave Ramsey company. And so we talk a lot about financial planning and paying cash for items. So do you budget based on what you have in the bank, or do you budget and plan based on your profit in the end game? How do you pay for all of these renovations and updates?
Well, the first thing I think that you're absolutely right. There's a balance. It's actually not either or. You got to take into consideration both.
Okay.
You have to take into consideration, we don't want people going massively into debt, 2 loans on a property, hard money lenders, multiple joint venture partners, lots of pressure, venture capitalist dollars to invest in money into the property. You don't want that. But you also don't want to be guiding this process by limited funds, especially if you're scraping the bottom of your savings account to make this happen. And now you can't complete the transaction. You've heard, Christina, the old quote, time is money. Never been more true than holding real estate. Because every day that you're holding that property, you're paying property taxes, you're paying insurance, you're paying for the landscaper, you're paying for the utilities, every day that you own it. And so we want to be timely with that investment. We don't want your budget. As soon as I get that next paycheck, I'll be able to do the landscaping. And then on that second paycheck of the following month, I'm going to do the flooring. And you're dragging this process out. And in some sense, you might have bought it right, but you didn't hold it right. And now it's not going to be a good experience. That holding is critical, knowing what to do and how to do it, and even having the trusted vendors lined up. I can think of properties that I've purchased where when I bring the vendor in, it's one after another, and one's pulling out of the driveway while a new one's coming in. And there are certain things that are happening sequentially, and there are certain things that are all happening at the same time. And we try to balance those because time is money, and you want to expedite this. The market that you bought in, you want to make sure it's the same market you're going to sell or rent in. And you definitely don't want that market to begin declining or property values decreasing. And in some sense, by taking longer to prepare the home for sale, the home is now worth less money. And that's a very common situation in markets that are fluctuating, changing, or even declining.
And you've also mentioned partnerships in the past too. And that's a great way of not emptying your savings account when you have a partner.
Well, you can do it that way. And, you and I did a podcast. It's actually today one of my favorite podcasts.
Yeah.
I can't remember what we titled it, but it was 10 ways to start investing. And we literally start with like the most basic way. You have a house right now, you own. Go and buy another house and rent that one. And then we talk about, okay, now go buy a duplex and rent out one side, or a triplex and rent out two and keep one. And then we go on to say things like, okay, now let's look at a commercial building because you have a business and maybe you can become what's called an owner user. And we go through these 10 baby steps. And I think that rather than going through the list and saying, okay, I'm going to go buy an apartment building, I don't have the available resources, and that requires me to learn along the way, and it requires me to partner up with investors that I don't know. Why don't you start as a baby step on and just renting out your own primary residence? You'll get a PhD in real estate by doing that. Trust me, you will learn. And there are so many benefits. We talk about that in the podcast. So I'm generally not a big fan of investors joining you or joint ventures, because what happens, Christina, is we all have our different timelines. And sometimes that timeline is for somebody to own a property for 5 years and then sell. And the other person's like, no, I'm going to own it for 10 years. Or another person's like, that's my retirement income. And you don't want to be placed in a position where your partner wants to exit before you. And now it may not be a timely time for you to purchase that half. It may not be a timely opportunity for you to sell the property or now re-rent the home. And so partnerships are very, very difficult, I think, in real estate, because the nature of real estate is a long-term decision. Remember, I talked to you about the different kinds of investors. We talked about that on past podcasts.
Right.
And the portfolio investor understands that this portfolio that they're creating and this portfolio that they're holding, these are long-term plays. They're long-term holds. And the people that do the very best in real estate have a long-term outlook. Even if it's a buy and flip, but they're thinking long-term. They're thinking about vendors that they have lifelong relationships that can come in and do some of those repairs. And they're thinking about great relationships where they have with real estate professionals that can help them get the highest possible price for the property in the least amount of time with minimal inconvenience, right? And they're thinking about it from a long-term career perspective. They're not just thinking one-offs. And the one-offs is where I hear people like, that investment didn't work out good for me. Or I had to repair the toilet at 11 o'clock at night, or that tenant really damaged the property. Those are generally one-offs because we didn't follow a strategy, we didn't follow a plan, we didn't follow a structure. Certainly, I wish I had these podcasts when I started investing in my early 20s. I wish I had this kind of insight that you and I talk about every week to apply to my real estate investment opportunities.
So we mentioned at the beginning of this program that now is a great time to sell. And so how do we get top dollar for an investment property? How do we get the highest price?
That's a great question. And we call it the 3 Ps. Now, some of the people in the office give me a hard time all the time because it's the 5 Cs, the 4 Ds, the 3 Ps, it's the 3 Ls. But it just helps me remember it so that, it becomes embedded in you. It becomes kind of part of your DNA. And the 3 Ps go like this. The first one is you got to present it properly. It means, what does the home look like? Is it clean? Is it well prepared? Is it staged either in person or virtually? What is the proper, do you have the right improvements? Does it have the Formica counter or the granite counter? Does it have the marble counter or does it have the tile counter? You've got to present it properly. What about the flooring? Is the flooring right? Is it got the right color paints? Do we have the lime green and the bright, vibrant purples? Or do we have more of an earth tone color throughout the property, right? So you present it. And as you present it, here's what you're looking for. You're not looking to find the one buyer. At the end of the day, we want a buyer, but we're not looking for, what you want to do is you want to be acceptable to 9 out of 10 buyers in the market.
Wow.
Or 9 out of 10 tenants in the market. So when you choose things that are extreme colors, extreme styles, they exclude the majority of people, and only a handful are interested, that one buyer. Well, if you really want to get the highest possible price for the property in the least amount of time with minimal inconvenience, what you want to do is you want 9 out of 10 people, 90% of the people that walk through the front door to be happy with how it's prepared and want to make an offer on the property. And you start to do that with the first P and how it's presented. Second P, positioning. Where is it positioned? How can people find it? Is it on Zillow? Is it on Redfin? Is it on Realtor.com? Or is there an ad in the newspaper, in the printed newspaper, right? In the Sunday Times. And what happens is if it's not properly presented on the market, what'll happen is nobody will know about it. It's like the best kept secret. And when I talk to investors who are buying properties, sometimes that becomes their opportunity. Rick, they simply put a sign in the yard. It was a for sale by owner. They put a price tag on the home that was aggressive. I made them an offer. We bought the property. Like that was their opportunity. That was their silver lining. That was their niche. They found somebody who wanted to sell a home in that capacity. You as an investor, you don't want to sell it at wholesale. You want to sell it retail. You want to sell it after you've made these improvements to the home. And the best way to do that is to understand how to position it on the market. Today with COVID, showing of a property is important, but it only occurs after they've seen the photos, after they've watched the videos, the Matterports, the virtual tours, the floor plan schematics, the enhanced image that show what a property could be, the virtually staged photos. Like these things help position the home on the market where it's highly effective. Another way that you position the home on the market is you don't always accept just the first offer that comes in. Give it a little time on the market. I see this as probably one of the most often or most obvious mistakes that even people in my profession, real estate agents, make. They put the home on the market. The first buyer that walks through absolutely loves it. In 15 minutes, they wrote an offer. You run it out to a seller. The seller accepts the offer. Now the home is pending. You never knew about buyer number 2. You never knew about buyer number 3. You never even met buyer number 4 because you took the offer in 15 minutes. And the truth is, if you met buyer number 2 and you met buyer number 3 and you met buyer number 4, the price would escalate, the terms would improve, and you would end up with a better transaction, a better experience, and a higher sales price. But we don't position it on the market well. We're a big advocate of put it on the market and let it sit on the market for a week or so, maybe 9 days, kind of a perfect amount of time, encompass both weekends, and allow all offers to be due on a certain date. If you make an offer on any of our properties, you probably see that. The value of that is that all offers come in 9 days, everyone had an opportunity. The homeowner gets the most out of the investment that they made in the real estate professional because it wasn't 15 minutes of marketing, but it was a week or 2 weeks or a couple weeks of marketing the property. So we've thoroughly invested the market. We've made sure that it's available to every buyer pool, and anyone who wanted to see it, if they weren't available or their agent wasn't available, can now make an appointment to see it. It's a game changer how that works. And so position on the market. And number 3, and to be honest with you, this one's the most important. You got to price it right. So often pricing is based on what I want for the home, what I have hopes it'll sell for, what I've got invested into it. And the truth is none of that stuff can determine your asking price for a property. It's not what I want for it. It's not how much money I spent on it. It's not how much I have invested into it. What I dreamed about last night, the list price ought to be, right? What is it? It's very simple. What is a buyer willing to pay for it? And by discovering what a buyer is willing to pay for the property, you can get 100% out of what the market will bear for the home. You overprice it, you have nobody come through, the property goes stale on the market really, really quick. You underprice it and you accept the first offer, then you missed out on all those other offers that were potential. And having that correct balance of marketing, getting the money's worth. When I see real estate agents say, I sold it in 15 minutes, or a seller that says, My real estate agent sold it in 15 minutes. I'm thinking, you lost so much money for that homeowner. They could have gotten so much for the home just by giving it a reasonable time to vet the market and find every buyer. And I call it positioning. How is it positioned? And then finally, your price, and your price, making sure that it's priced right. I see things like this today. Somebody will price a home. This is kind of a common thought process. And they'll price the home maybe at $799 or $795, or they think $787. The truth is, those all are in between a bracket, because that's how people search for property today. They search in $50,000 increments. They do that on Zillow and Realtor.com, sometimes $25,000 increments. Okay. So what is the value, Christina, of being in between those brackets? Why wouldn't you price the property in that scenario I gave you at $750 or $800? Because if I price it at $750, I benefit from an investor for the pool of buyers that exists from $750 to $800. They're going to find it. They're going to see it. It's going to be exposed to more of them. And I'm also going to benefit from the pool from $700 to $750. Like, I win on both sides. My property, my investment is exposed to both markets, and I have two buyer pools instead of these things I see today like $499. Wow, you just missed out on the other half of the market, because the 500 to 550 buyer would have looked at it if it was just 500,000. And so knowing those brackets per market, per community, and how people search and evaluate property today can help you position it to get more offers, which then become a better pricing, a better price for the property, a better offer amount, and a lot better terms for the home too.
That's so good. Thank you. And we talked about the market rate now. And so this is our last podcast of 2020, specifically focused on real estate investment properties. We have more podcasts about real estate, but this one's about investing. So we have a great podcast that you're working on about the market in 2021. Can you give us a little teaser about what's coming down the line? What does 2021 look like?
Yeah, actually, I think this is a great conversation, because we see a world right now at the end of 2020 that is very volatile. Right. If you look at the stock market, it's been up and down, and it's been all over the place. Sometimes big swings, small swings. Every day it's not moving in a particular direction. It goes way up, it goes way down. You know, it's this emotional roller coaster. And then you see the COVID and things that are happening with COVID, and sometimes we're seeing the numbers down, and we're seeing them up, and then we see them trend up, and we see them trend down. And then we see government regulations come in, and sometimes they're more restrictive or sometimes less. And so you got this really volatile market. And what's interesting about it all, when it comes to real estate's the steady eddy. Real estate has been the consistent characteristic in all of this market. In this time, real estate values have continued to rise. They rose throughout this 2020. If you had a home and you evaluated it in 2019, at the end of 2020, it's going to be more. And most economists that I'm watching share that it's going to continue at that same pace throughout 2021. We look at low interest rates, which spur on demand for the property. And most economists do not anticipate the interest rates in 2020 skyrocketing. They anticipate they'll make slight adjustments. Okay. So those markets are creating some opportunities into 2021, and that's what that podcast is going to be about. I want to cover some of those opportunities that are going to exist, that are unusual, that are unlikely to occur again in our lifetime. So refinancing is a perfect example. If you refinance now, the likelihood of you ever refinancing, what's the rate's going to go to zero, right? You're going to get the lowest possible rate now. Why would you ever refinance again in the future? That's an opportunity. Those who miss that window of opportunity miss it altogether. It's gone. And so that podcast, I want to talk about some of the most incredible opportunities that exist on the market, and then kind of lace in what the California Association of Realtors and some other economists are expecting with the market, so that investors can move forward with the lights on, with their eyes wide open, and they can make good decisions into 2021 that can help people find properties for rent and help people find properties to purchase and provide necessary inventory to the market on both the rental front and also on the real estate sales front.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear more about it. It's going to be incredible. And thank you for doing all this research and for sharing your expertise. There's so much noise out there. It's hard to know who to trust and what noise is noise and what is truth. So thank you for bringing that to us. I appreciate it. And I know our audience does too.
You bet.
And that's all the time we have for today. So again, thank you, Rick, for sharing this incredible information. Please join our Facebook groups, Agents Thrive or Investors Thrive, to continue to access valuable information about the real estate industry. So put it on your calendar to join us next week. We'll have leadership coach Valerie Bennett Lewis on the program to share about creating a work environment of inclusivity, which is so needed right now. So that is going to be incredible. I worked with her a little bit on this and it's fabulous. So if you own a business or you're in the real estate industry, this is a must. So have a great day, and we can't wait for you to join us next time. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.